You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another incredible episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we smash up every story from A to Z.
Atom Smash!
And I'm the bad boys X-Men podcasting. It's Zach here. I'm still here. I'm here. I'm the normal one. Adam's being a weirdo. I don't know what his deal is.
I don't know. We were talking about Hulk this week, so I figured I'd introduce myself in a Hulk voice. You know, just keeping it simple.
Listen, whatever bits you find funny. Our audience loves the bits. I don't know if we haven't gotten reviews that are mad about the bits recently, or if I've stopped looking at the reviews. I think it's number 2.
Listen, if I was going to talk like Hulk for the entire episode, I'm sure we would get complaints, you know?
You mean like that one episode where you and me, when we were recording it, were putting on scroll bits for a while, but then you took it a step farther and post-processed our voices to the point where maybe we went too far with the bit.
Nobody liked that. It's okay. You know, we got to experiment. We got to try things that are new, you know.
It's good to go for the fences every once in a while.
Absolutely, you know. And sometimes, you know, if you're a comics company, you got to look outside the box, think outside the box, maybe hire a television writer or two to write a comic, you know. So we got some good, interesting things on the show today.
Okay, but wait, how many times has that actually worked?
Oh, very few.
I'm going to say sales-wise, regardless of the mixed quality of it, Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men probably
the most successful.
Probably like the best success story of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could say that, but also Kevin Smith's Daredevil did kind of save Marvel. I understand Kevin Smith's involvement in said Daredevil was questionable at best. And maybe it's Joe Quesada's Daredevil that Kevin Smith did some punches up to.
Sure, but, you know, putting a name on something that maybe needed it at that moment.
Like J.J. Abrams' kid.
Oh boy. We're talking about that because
this week.
Yeah, this will make sense in a second. Zach, why are we talking about the Hulk on this X-Men podcast this week?
Oh, because he's a Marvel Comics character, and we've been doing this show for 347 episodes, and at a certain point, we're just going for it. And actually, this specific episode is brought to us by all of our Patreons at patreon.com.
Mm-hmm.
Every so often, we go out and say, folks, what do you want us to talk about? And a lot of people wanted us to talk about the Hulk, and we wanted to talk about the Hulk. So we said, let's talk about some Hulk stories. And if you want to get in on that action, well, here's the great news. If you want to get in on that action and you're already on the Patreon, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I'll make a new post soon because we're almost out of the stories that we wanted to do from that last post. But if you're a new one, if you have not heard the calling to support your local chapter of Battle of the Atom, I was thinking like more of a call from God or the Holy Spirit, which came down like a dove or a fire, depending on if you're on the Transfiguration and or Pentecost. It was tongues of fire. Regardless, I don't think they go caw, is all I'm saying.
I don't know. When I hear the call, I hear caw.
Patreon.com/Battle of the Atom, $5. $5 US.
That's all it takes.
That is half of an issue of Amazing Spider-Man this week.
Man, yeah. Just driving these anniversary prices up. So Zach, we've been alluding to it. What is the Hulk story that we are going to start this week with?
We're going to start this week with Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk by Leinil Leinil Francis Yu's the exciting part of this, right? I don't know this other guy. He's not a comics writer. Some guy. I think these 6 are his only credits. It's Damon Lindelof.
Yes, Damon Lindelof, co-creator of one of, if not my favorite television show, Lost, showrunner on the amazing show The Leftovers. If you've never watched that, it's amazing.
Never watched The Leftovers.
Showrunner on, I thought there was some good stuff. I thought there was some bad stuff with The Watchmen.
I never watched Watchmen because I didn't have HBO Go at the time, or HBO Now, or HBO Max, whichever one it was.
Yeah.
HBO Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So I never actually watched that. And going back to it just seems like it'll be a lot of work.
You don't have to do that.
It has Jean Smart, and I'm loving her in
Hacks.
I'm loving her currently in Hacks, but think of the last decade of Jean Smart.
Oh,
what a career!
Crazy.
Hacks, this Watchmen show, Legion, and not to mention Fargo season 2, aka one of the best seasons of television.
That one of my favorite seasons of television of all time. So Damon has been, all around, but this is still, mid Lost and pre-writer's strike. So we're talking like Lost season 2-ish.
Okay, so
maybe
it comes out 2005. Yeah, comes out 2005. The writer's strike would have been season 3. Lost starts in 20, yeah. Or 03, right? That sounds right.
Well, no, I only know that.
04, but yes.
I only know that because, and we'll get into what the story is, but, the reason that this is so, the thing that people remember the most about it was the fact that 2 issues came out, and then, 4 years passed before they published the rest of it?
Okay, so it comes out December of 25.
Yep.
February, or not 25, 2005. Excuse me. February of 2006. So a gap, a small delay, but things happen. Then it comes out in March of 2009, and at least they go March, April again, and then May. So it feels like they were like, well, we're not gonna release another one until they're all done.
Yes.
And that might have been partly because of Leinil Francis Yu's schedule at a certain point, because the dude still needs work. So they have to put him on other assignments, and then Damon has to actually get his scripts in because he's running one of the biggest television shows, or at least the most. Lost was big, but it was never the biggest show that was going on, partly because it was a lot to follow every week when TiVo was not everywhere.
That's true.
I remember missing an episode of Lost once because a guy almost tried to kill me. It was Everyone Hates Hurley.
Oh, interesting. I'm more concerned about someone trying to kill my friend.
We don't have to get into some of the weird stuff that happened in 9th grade.
Oh my God. Okay,
I'll tell you off air, Adam. That was a bad night.
That made me feel very old. Okay. So Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk is the first time that these 2 ultimate versions of the characters have met. Hulk is kind of gone off and he's just a mess, and Wolverine is being sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. to take him out by Nick Fury. And most of this story is told in various flashbacks.
One, very funny that he did that. 2, I'm gonna give Damon Lindelof, and honestly most TV, film, or literary writers who come into comics, they are not afraid to be but we can do something different with the format. We can tell stories in a more unique way. We are not bound by linear time on the page. A trick Grant Morrison learned and has never stopped learning.
That is true. So we do get, sort of the beginning of this, which is that Hulk is ripping Wolverine in half. So that's how our story begins.
One, there was a hot minute Marvel let anybody get ripped in half. Now you have to go to the Red Band. You got to go to the worst store that you've ever been to. and buy a polybagged copy to see a man ripped in half. You used to get that in issue ones across the board. How do you think we started to love Sentry? Because he ripped a dude in half and threw him into the sun.
Amazing. So Wolverine has been sent and has tracked the Hulk down to, where is he? Tibet? He's sort of like in the mountains.
He's in Tibet because it's a weird thing about Inner Peace, but also it turns into the Hulk having a menagerie of women at his disposal to do with what he will, which is pretty not great.
Yeah, there's some border. I want to say borderline, but like this series has such a dim view of women. There is some smart dialogue back and forth between Betty and Jennifer Walters. Is that
yes,
right? But at the same time,
because the trick is that you have Betty Ross and Jen Walters there, and then She-Hulk shows up, but it's not Jen Walters, it's Betty Ross.
Right. But
they're trying to trick you.
The crux of why the Hulk is like so bent out of shape is that he is like a heartbroken incel who can't get over the fact that Betsy won't pick up the phone and talk to him.
Which, to be fair, is just like, that's what Ultimates started with. Hulk want to eat Freddie Prinze Jr. or whatever he says.
Right, yeah. Freddie Prinze Jr. is now dating Betty, so...
Again, that's Mark Miller. That's a Mark Miller.
But, we get to the Hulk's lair, and it's basically a harem of women, all kind of scantily clad. You have to imagine that Lenille might have a version of this page where no one's wearing anything. Later on, when Betsy does come after them as She-Hulk, or actually Wolverine then later goes after her, like there's a whole scene where she's just naked because she just got out of the shower, and it's like there's just a basic thing here where it's like, Damon, maybe we should rethink the way that the women are being portrayed in this particular miniseries.
I'm saying this as not a excuse. It's a very 2005.
Oh
comic.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, it feels 2005. It also feels 2005 about how, like, Wolverine talks. And Ultimate Wolverine sucks. We all know this. Like, he's Wolverine, but they took the charm and heart out of him and just gave him all the badass.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think
he's the balance.
Yeah, I don't think he's particularly like that different from regular Wolverine here. He's just a little bit more of a snarky butthole.
He is Wolverine distilled and with the quote unquote impurities removed, but the impurities are like his multidimensionalness.
Yeah.
As a character.
Yeah. So because it's told mainly through a recurring series of flashbacks, we really get kind of stuck in the same scenes over and over and over, even after it comes back from its 3-year break. It's okay. Lenille Francis Yu's art is fantastic. It is a beautiful book to look at. There's some really great fight sequences between the Hulk and Wolverine where they're just like ripping at each other, tearing at each other. But story-wise, there's not a lot going on here.
There is a whole thing about Hulk eventually being like, Wolverine, you understand, like, I'm here because they tried to murder me with several nukes, and I'm just, like, chilling. I'm literally hurting nobody, in his opinion. I don't know how true that is, but in general, he's like, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Right.
I'm a stranger to you, and a guy said, go kill him. Drop what you're doing and go kill him. And you said, yeah, I'll do that for free. That sounds fun. What does that say about you, Wolverine? Which gets Wolverine to at least rethink. He's like, oh, wait. Yeah, bringing up some valid points. And unfortunately, it gets messed up because She-Hulk shows up. She-Hulk and Hulk immediately start going at it because pheromones or something. Look, man, I don't know. It's that part's like...
Yeah, again, it doesn't... I just... there's a scene... There's a scene...
Want to be clear, She-Hulk's not Jen Walters, but still.
Right, but there's a scene where Jennifer Walters has been experimenting on a gerbil, with the Hulk serum, and the Hulk gerbil like explodes out of its cage. And what happens to Jennifer Walters? Her top flies open, and it's just like, okay, guys, like just tone it down just a tad. You know what I mean? I will say the subplot involving Jennifer Walters being under suspicion for selling the Hulk formula and them tracking her down to China only to find out that she has a bootleg of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movie inside. That was pretty funny.
See, I hated it. I hated how cheeky look at me this is, because Lindelof, obviously friends with Abrams, was an executive producer on that Star Trek. I think all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, wait, Adam, rank
Yeah.
the three Abrams era Star Trek movies.
First one, third one, second one.
I was gonna go third, first, second, but
Okay.
yes,
That's fair.
I'd
love another one. Give me more Chris Pine.
It's a lot of fun. Zachary Quinto, very charming as Spock. Zachary Quinto was half the reason why we thought about like heroes in a positive light.
Yeah, it's a fun cast. I also did appreciate, at least for the lost heads out there who will appreciate, that at one point we do get the ultimate Forge involved in this story, because Forge invents a collar that is going to shut down both She-Hulk and Hulk. But in Forge's little like lab that he has Dharma Initiative stuff for snacks, and he gives Wolverine one. And I was like, good on you, Damon. Because like the Star Trek thing could be really annoying, but I figure if Damon Lindelof is writing a comic, like that's kind of what you want him to do, is like stuff like that. Just like, oh, haha, he made a reference to his show or his friend's movie that he's producing.
How does it all connect to the greater Lost mystery?
I don't think.
Is this a flash sideways, Adam?
Well, like I said, it's primarily flashbacks.
It is. Do you know one part? There's a bit here that super doesn't work, and it's just annoying that they think it's still funny, because even you take away the cultural appropriation stuff of it, it's just not a good bit. It's that Logan's spirit animal is a panda who he doesn't listen to, and there's an extended bit about him having dreams of a panda, and it's not funny.
No. And it's also very clearly, it looks like if you go into, because the panda flashback happens in 4, I think.
5.
When does he fight the panda?
Also 5, I think.
Okay. I don't really know, but it seems like, because there is a bit where he's like showing you bits of things that happened, and it looks like Wolverine is fighting a panda, and it seems like a little joke, but like, why did they feel the need to follow it up with the panda dream sequence? It's so dumb, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
And that's the really big thing that just like, what are you doing? But, anyway, I guess by the end, we get, this is another piece of like misogyny, is that the way they're going to control Hulk at the end is that he's going to have Betty, or Fury is going to hold Betty hostage, I guess. And that's how the Hulk is now controlled, is that like, do what I want or I'll kill your girl. I mean, that's pretty rough.
I mean, it is, but that's also a Nick Fury thing. Like, I believe that.
It's very ultimate.
Look, I understand why, if I'm Hulk, I just want to be left alone. I get it.
I mean, he does, but he also doesn't. Like, he spends the bulk of the beginning of this story just like wanting his ex-girlfriend to pick up the phone and walking around and murdering.
Rephrase that. Instead of being left alone, I just want someone not to be trying to murder me.
that could be part of it too.
Hey, Hulk, yes. I've been there. I get it.
Yeah. So, oh man, good callback. So
I know, right? Call me Damien Lindelof, because that was a good setup and a callback right there.
Amazing. Oh, Wolverine also becomes Patch in the 5th issue, which I thought was kind of funny.
That's good, actually.
That was pretty funny. Okay, great art. Love the art.
Great art. Leinil Francis Yu. Wow.
Damon.
What's you doing right now? Is it Star Wars stuff?
I don't know what he's been doing since X-Men with Hickman. I really don't know.
Okay.
Not sure. Definitely have seen some covers.
I mean, listen, those make the most money.
Yeah, get those bucks, you. But yeah, I'm not like, even though I'm a Lost fan, like the desire to really
Oh,
read
he's
this.
designing cards for Visa.
Oh, I was not expecting you to say that, but good for him.
I wasn't expecting that either. I will put it in the chat for you. For a Malaysian, yeah, he drew a pole vaulter for, not Malaysian, excuse me, for the Maya Visa card for the upcoming Paris Olympics.
Oh, well, good. Hey, that looks great. I bet that looks like a real, that's a real athlete too, a pole vaulter. It looks like.
It is. It is.
Ijo Biena? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Very cool. All right, Zach, we should try and rank this on our big old list.
That's the thing. Here's the beautiful thing about us. We have a big old list. The list is so big, it covers every X-Men story we have ever talked about on this. We're ranking them from best to worst. And wouldn't you know it, the best stuff is pretty high. The worst stuff, it's at the bottom. We have 912 stories on our road to 1,000. The 1K road. And then number 1 is the House of X Powers of 10. Number 300 is the Trial of Dream Guide. Number 600 is X-Force and Cable Annual 1995. Number 900 is Wolverine 50 to 55 Evolution and the worst X-Men story of all time. 912, it's 2099 World Tomorrow. I'm going to say something.
Yeah, please.
2 things, actually. 1, we have decided that there are 112 X-Men stories worse than those 2 issues of Captain Marvel where Fabian Nicieza poorly explains the backstory about him X the Extreme.
That's fine. That's not surprising.
It's just like, people are like, X-Men comics are bad. Brother, they've always been bad. It's a surprise when they're good. Let's not worry about when X-Men is bad. It's always bad.
Yeah. Where is Jump the Shark on the list, Zach?
Let me see. Jump the Shark. It is at 340, and this is not as good as Jump the Shark.
All right, so we know we're lower than that. There are some other. This is not as good as Ultimate Comics X at 345.
At number 400, we have What Happened to Nightcrawler from Uncanny X-Men 204, which better. I think is better.
Yeah, that's definitely better. Well, let's see. What's it? 500 is.
It's better than 500.
X-Men 48. Beware Computo, Commander of the Robot Hive. Yeah, I'd say this is better than that. So we're in the 400s, we think, right?
Yes. Do you think this is better than the new Excalibur story, where Dazzler is immortal, and then there's that family that does suicide bombings?
Gosh. All right. So we're talking about 488 here, new Excalibur 6 to 7.
Yes, it is.
I think this is better than that. There's something like still enjoyable about this. I don't think this is as good as even the Man-Thing issue at Uncanny 144, though.
I don't think this is better than Food Fight from Excalibur 5 to 7.
No, I don't either.
Actually, no, it is. It's got the U-Art puts it over that.
Okay. So
that's 487 now.
Are we too low, or is no? That's fine.
We are just right.
That sounds great. So, Ultimate Wolverine versus Ultimate Hulk at 487. Zach, this is not the only time Hulk has tangled with X-Men. Where are we going next?
We're going to Peter David's Incredible Hulk. The arc War and Pieces from Incredible Hulk 390 to 392 with a side story, like a Gaiden story, like it's a Japanese video game from the 80s, in X Factor 76.
Aha, yes. So we will get into that, but what do you know about the Pantheon, Zach?
Nothing, and I don't want to.
All right.
They seem like they have Greek names from like the Odyssey.
Yeah, so the Pantheon basically like decide that they are the world's policemen, and the Hulk is really into them. At this point in Hulk history, Hulk has merged his ultra strong green form and his ultra smart intelligence into one being. So this is like
this is Doc Green, right? That's what he calls himself?
Yeah, this is like, sassy wisecracking, but still a gigantic Hulk. best known for being illustrated by now absolute strange person / comics skater Dale Keown, who, hey, I'll give him credit. At this time, he was absolutely killing it. These issues, at least the Hulk issues, look pretty great. X Factor issue is done by Tom Rainey. That does not look as great, unfortunately. But Peter David, I guess, woke up one day and was like, hey, you know what? I need to tackle America and the Middle East. And boy, he's making some choices here, huh?
So, yeah. Now, let's be clear. This comes out at the end of 1991. So, Operation Desert Storm was very present in everyone's mind. And it seems like Peter David also had some thoughts, and he thought that the best place to get those thoughts out was in his Incredible Hulk comic.
Yeah. So he creates a Middle Eastern nation known as Trans-Sabal that is being run by basically an Ayatollah type character. You could say that it's a Saddam Hussein.
There's a bit of Saddam in him.
There absolutely is, because it's very clear that as a leader, Farnak Don is attacking his own people. But
and he also visually looks a lot closer to Saddam Hussein than Ayatollah.
Yes. But essentially, the Hulk and the Pantheon have decided to drop in to this location and just wage war. So the Desert Storm
to cause a regime change.
Well, yeah.
So here's the thing, and I don't want to get into discourse about Operation Iraqi Freedom or whatever we called it in the early 2000s. But Desert Storm very explicitly was getting the Republic Guard of Iraq out of Kuwait and then saying, we're good, and stopping there. It was not about regime change explicitly, whereas Operation Iraqi Freedom was about bringing democracy to the Iraqis.
Yeah, it's definitely, two different things, but, sticking to the 90s conflict, Peter David is trying to imply that the CIA is willing to work with this Farnak Don character to supply mandroids from S.H.I.E.L.D. to carry out his evil doing. And this does not sit well with one Mr. Bruce Banner, who, it's an interesting thing because this story does seem to want to tackle a serious topic, but it also is buying into 90s action tropes and starts the story with the Hulk using giant guns and laser beams and quoting Terminator 2. It's a very weird line that Peter David is trying to...
It's weird that you're like, oh yeah, the Terminator 2 quote, which I had to stop because you're right, he does that. It's just not the quote that I remember from him doing in that scene, because he just quotes a lot of things because he's a big dumb action hero. The quote I remember is from Bible, obviously, where he says, "Come, let us reason with one another."
Yeah. But it's definitely playing off of kind of the Schwarzenegger Stallone guy with a big gun. And
except for that, this comic would not be dedicated to the brave Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan, unlike some Sylvester Stallone movies.
Yes. Oh my.
I didn't put it in Rocky 3. They did.
So
they were like, guy who runs this, I really hope that in 13 years we don't do a big heel turn on you.
Amazing.
Maybe specifically American, but generally any European activity in the Middle East to try and bring regime change was a bad thing that was done. Maybe all of it was a mess.
So far we've just been talking about Peter David and the Hulk and those things, but because the US government is involved, their government mutant team, X Factor, shows up to try and stop the Hulk without necessarily realizing what side they're fighting on or for, right? Like they're brought
So
in to stop the Hulk, but they don't realize necessarily that they are working for an evil dictator who then like they have to get out there and fight the Hulk first to figure out that things are bad.
So on one hand, they shouldn't be working for a dictator to maintain his power over a nation.
Of course not.
On the other hand, Hulk probably shouldn't be just uniformly working with insurgents who, like, historically, it's been a mess. It's been a mess. So
Well,
I don't
and
know. I've got some weird feelings about everyone in this, which maybe that's the point, but Peter David's writing's not smart enough to make that point.
well, I want to get into the X Factor issue in a second, the standalone issue, but the part in the third issue where you literally have Havoc tied to a bomb, right? Because Farnock is launching actual citizens up into the air onto his own people with individuals strapped to them, including women and children, right? So that's how like broad David's symbolism is here. Havoc and Hulk engage in a multi-page conversation about isolationist military engagement versus the need for America to be the world's policeman. And it's like, God, Peter, this is not working. Like, this is not the place and the symbols that you want to have between these two goofy characters to have this serious political conversation. You know, like you think you've got it. You think this is going to be extremely intelligent and smart, and it does not work.
It doesn't. And it's like some of it's just outright lies and propaganda that Peter David's putting into this. It's like, could you imagine? Here's what it feels like. It's like Peter David was on a tour in the Middle East, like he was traveling the world, and he was in a cab, or his tour guide just lied and explained things poorly to him in his comic. And then he was like, yes, I will put all of this without doing any fact checking or thinking through it critically, even a little bit, in my comic. And then probably if someone asks me at a convention 30 years later, I would offend it to my last breath.
Yeah. Yeah. So the real outlier here is the standalone.
Your face was so disappointed that I made that go on for a minute.
Oh, the X Factor issue is Rain gets punched out of the fight between X Factor and the Hulk and ends up being taken prisoner by a civilian who is, when I tell you this is an extremely Islamophobic portrayal of an individual, who this guy is like openly abusive to his wife, is like going on for pages about his hero worship of Farnock Don. This is where I think the Ayatollah stuff comes into this. You know what I mean?
This is also where I think Peter David's tour guide told him some stuff, and he just went on.
Yeah, like he completely unravels. His tour guide
was from France, by the way. I just want to be clear. In this scenario, his tour guide is not like a native of the Middle East. It's some white dude.
So that issue is rough, man. Like it really shows Peter David's hand and what he's like actually thinking about as he's writing this story, I think, in a very negative and I would argue borderline. I keep saying borderline, but it feels very racist.
You're being very delicate about Peter David's racism, a thing I've made extended jokes about just a minute ago.
I know.
Like it's a thing.
It's on the page, you know, and using when you do characters like this that do not have a lot of representation or any representation, let's face it, and you portray them as, you know, walking caricatures, it is not a good look, man. It really isn't. And again, the characters like this guy who abducts her and Rain are trying to have this philosophical conversation, and it just sounds very dumb and uninformed, and it doesn't work. So aside from admiring the lovely once I don't know if Dale Keown has always been crazy, or Alpha's rocker, but you know, I did enjoy looking at the art. I don't have many.
Dale Keown to me looks, again, this is going to be mean. Dale Keown looks to me like the guy you get to not join Image. Like the last name left off the list.
Oh,
It was
really?
like Jim Valentino, they draw a line, Dale Keown.
Well, he was Image 2.0. You know, he was the next, you know, with Sam Keith. Like he wasn't exactly the because then they gave him Pitt.
Bud, you think I know that deep into Image? I
That's
wasn't
okay.
living. I was alive then. They didn't let me read Bloodhawk. Nope, that's an X-Men character. Never mind.
You mean Shadowhawk?
I was thinking Blood is the main thing, but yes, I got it mixed up.
That's
Blood
okay.
Strike, maybe. Which Blood is that
Blood
one?
Strike was a thing. Yep, that was a Liefeld book that he didn't.
Blood
draw.
Sport.
No, that's a Van Damme movie.
I mean, I bet it's a 90s Image character.
I wouldn't be surprised. But I have to say, I think this is going to rank much lower than that last story because I don't think Peter David has the wherewithal, the knowledge to really tell this story properly. And he's bitten off way more than he could chew. It just doesn't work.
No, it's people over history thought they had the best Hulk run in Peter David's Hulk. And then Al Ewing's Hulk run said, no, this is it. And I just feel like the gap between what I've read, and I've not read all of Peter David's Incredible Hulk, but I have read all of Immortal Hulk, and what I've read of Immortal Hulk is so much better than what I read of David's Hulk that, like, I don't even want to go back. Also, what's with Rick Jones killing a dude?
Rick Jones absolutely kills Farnock Don in a Mandroid's from a Mandroid suit, and
Rick Jones leads a regime change.
Yep, because no one is willing to kill Farnock Don, but Rick Jones has been converted and totally shoots the guy. So I'm looking down the list, Zach, at 670.
I mean, this one's bad.
Yeah, at 675, we have the X Factor She-Hulk crossover Secret Invasion, which does have
that one's
some
unfortunate.
That does have some very poor Larry Stroman art. So
Larry,
not sure whether this is better or worse than that. I think it's more offensive, you know?
It is both. It's worse because I did not enjoy reading this Hulk comic. I did not get the appeal. The art was better though, and I say that with deep love for the art of Larry Stroman, wherever it may be.
Yeah. What? How far down do we want to go then?
Okay, so this is better than Wildcats X-Men though.
Sure. That is at what?
Wildcats X-Men is at 699.
Okay. All right. So we're going to keep this in the 600s. I don't think this is better than IVX at 695. And I don't think it's as good as Mechanics at 697.
Then I don't actually think it's better than Journey into Mystery, The Birth of Krakoa.
I'm not convinced it's better than Wildcats X-Men, Zach. Honestly,
at that last issue of Wildcats X-Men is really bad, but that second issue does have Grifter making out with Jean Grey.
Yeah, and that X Factor issue.
That's the ultimate move.
It is really bad. Is this better or worse than Reign of Terra at 708?
It is. It's also worse than Mystique 1-6, which is also weirdly about similar topics.
Yeah.
But it's probably better than Cyberforce X-Men, right?
Okay, so this can be our new 710.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So this was War and Pieces, Incredible Hulk 390 to 392, and a random issue of X Factor. And Zach, we got one more Hulk X-Men crossover. What is this?
Well, you know how Farnock Don wanted to like keep his regime, and if Rick Jones wasn't there, probably the US would have supported him for a short amount of time before flipping sometime in, I want to say, actually shortly after this. Well, no, hold on, wait. I'm getting my politics confused. What I'm saying is Saddam Hussein didn't have... I was going to get to a whole point and be like, yeah, that's what Don wouldn't have had.
Ah.
is Weapons of Mutant Destruction.
Oh. Okay.
I know some people are still mad about it, as they should be, but we did get into a 20-year war under false pretenses, and that is the second time that's happened in a spell for the
Yeah.
US.
People should be upset. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. But these aren't those WMDs. These are Weapons of Mutant Destruction. And this has an alpha issue. And then it's Totally Awesome Hulk 20 to 22 and Weapon X Volume 3, 5, and 6. There's a couple prelude issues if you want to kind of get into the...
It's the Totally Awesome Hulk and Weapon X before this.
Yeah.
And that is... Those prelude issues are Weapon X meets Totally Awesome Hulk. We're talking about Weapon X, Adam, though.
Yes.
Like, people think like us and think frequently about 2017 X-Men, one of the worst times to be reading X-Men.
Yes, this is Greg Pak and Greg Land's Weapon X. And luckily, Greg Land only does the prelude issue, I believe, which looks
even he has to take a break.
Terrible. Like
it is. I don't know about you. I had dropped the series by issue 3.
Yeah,
I was done.
Yeah. I mean, if people do remember the first couple of issues of Weapon X, they keep getting attacked by people who have adamantium skeletons inside of them, right? Like they've obviously been experimented on. So Weapon X is, or some form of the program is definitely up and running. And this is the crossover with Amadeus Cho, Totally Awesome Hulk, which I believe Greg Pak was also writing.
Greg Pak was also writing because it was his follow-up to his Incredible Hulk series, which if people wouldn't say Peter David's Hulk, they would say Greg Pak's Hulk. And I'm going to say, in general, I don't think his Totally Awesome Hulk and the subsequent Hulk stuff hits as well. Part of that's the art, because Greg Land then transitions over to that book, and there's some challenges. But, like, Planet Hulk and World War Hulk are not nothing stories.
Yeah.
Greg Pak was on something else.
And to his credit, I enjoyed this. This is very silly. Essentially, Amadeus Cho has teamed up with the Weapon X team, which for folks who don't remember was Old Man Logan, Sabretooth, Deathstrike, Domino, Warpath. Did I get everybody?
That's the team at this time. And when you say Sabretooth, this is inverted Sabretooth, who's in his good guy era.
Yes.
And when you say Deathstrike, you mean Lady Deathstrike, the evil woman who's never been good, who is in her. I take that back. She had just had a lot of stuff happen in that second time I've thought about this today, the Weekly Wolverines series. I believe she was in that as like a pretty major character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But besides that,
she really doesn't seem like herself here. Just kind of a generic superhero. But I mean, that's fine.
It's a little weird, but I mean, like, Lady Deathstrike was going through a lot of things. Like, right before that, she was Mexican for a little bit.
Oh, God. I did not know that.
You don't remember that Brian Wood story?
Was that... Wait, I don't even want to know. I don't want to know. Just don't complete the sentence.
No, hold on. I'm going to send it to you because the design's actually killer.
Okay.
Which is so unfortunate because the story is truly horrible.
Yeah, sounds it. Just based on the premise. So what the team and Cho discover is that there is an organization that is doing experiments using DNA that they have gotten from the Weapon X team, essentially, right, over time. And they're using it to create kind of, at the first, you don't really know what they are, but they're
taking everybody's powers and mixing them together.
Yeah, it's pretty clear as we're going that they are trying to create a Hulkverine. They are trying to create a Hulk with the healing powers and the adamantium skeleton of a Wolverine. And I gotta say, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun and silly. And there's a whole recurring bit about pizza deliveries that I thought was kind of cute and funny.
So this is the weird thing for me. It's that Greg Pak's not writing a bad story at all from like bad comic standpoint. It's wild, though, that this is his big event crossover story because the writing, the plotting kind of sucks in my mind because the big reveal is that there is a Wolverine, but they don't fight the Wolverine. He just goes off into the wild. Like, you
Well,
don't get what you want. You don't. It doesn't have a conclusion. It has a part 2 coming soon.
that is true. That is true. I think that if I were going to edit this, I would want to bring it down to maybe like 3 or 4 issues and not like 6 issues. I think it is too long for what it is. I will say though that there was like a body horror element to this that I did enjoy, of like, you've got this setup where this lab is several different levels deep, and like each level you go down, it's more evil, right? And you get to the point in the story where there's this woman who's very traumatized because she's been experimenting on rats constantly, who then, well, they ran out of volunteers, so hey, you're going downstairs. And like, that kind of a story beat really does work for me as a horror fan. I was like, this is kind of fun. Like the evil mad scientist Alba, that is the one that is just like gleefully Frankensteining in the basement. I really did enjoy that. How did you feel about the mastermind villain of this story, Zach?
The villain's William Stryker. Greg Pak. 1. No one should be allowed to use William Stryker anymore.
Nope.
We used him once, and it was good.
And that's it.
Then Chris Claremont uses him a second time, and it's the worst story that we started this show with.
It's very bad.
A story that gets brought up here in a very funny way.
Well, they do mention, like, isn't he dead? Like, he should be dead, right?
They mentioned that, and then they also mention, because Lady Deathstrike's on the team, and they're like, yeah, Lady Deathstrike, you used to work for him.
Oh,
and she's like, I'm not.
No comment.
None of us are talking about Chris Claremont writing the novelization to X2 X-Men United and being like, okay, well, I'm going to bring this into my current X-Men comic I'm writing.
Absolutely wild. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I hate that. And he doesn't make a good, charming case to be William Stryker. He doesn't make a good, charming case to be literally anything but a generic face who happens to, like, it. Pac's touching on, you could call it Comicsgate incel stuff. But what I think is more realistically called a very real or very normal and real life thing of young men, largely poor young men, largely less educated young men who are mad and frustrated about their place in the world because things aren't going the way they wanted to, and then being like indoctrinated by a cult-like figure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And not just, I'm talking about Donald Trump, but this was a thing before Donald Trump even. Like, Trump was not novel. He was the man there at the time.
Right. So we're showing, and this is where I think that I applaud the effort, because Pac is really trying to talk about these, like, disaffected young people who are getting red pilled out there, right, into being these hateful characters. Where I think the story kind of breaks down a little bit is that Amadeus Cho is written as this like very high and mighty like moral compass throughout, and even in the face of these supervillains that are absolute monsters, he is still like, we gotta save him. Like, Alba literally tells him, like, that Hulk that you're fighting right now is literally a vegetable. There is nothing but like cell clusters inside that thing. It doesn't have any of your friend in it. And Amadeus Cho is still trying to save the soul of this individual. And I applaud the heroics of it, because you don't see this that often in comics, in contemporary comics. But it does come off a little strange when the people he's trying to save are the people that are hell-bent on killing, maiming, experimenting on destroying the people he's teamed up with.
Yeah, I get that what Pac was doing in Totally Awesome Hulk. Which, did you read Totally Awesome at all?
I mean, I've read a couple issues, including these.
I read it on Marvel Unlimited. It was fine, but definitely suffered from just not being like a Hulk book, really. Like, it was weird. Amadeus was trying to like be a better Hulk, to prove that Hulk could be like a controlled great thing.
Mhm.
And that's part of it, because he doesn't, and this story makes it a point, he doesn't want to like get in there and unleash the Hulk
Yep.
fully.
Well,
Which
there
he
is
does in
that
this story
great
eventually.
scene where Amadeus Cho does, like, in his brain, go to the trunk of the car and unlock the Hulk, which I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. You know, because Sabretooth.
That's been a recurring motif for the last 20 some issues, is
Okay.
Hulk's in the trunk.
Yeah, but it is great.
That part does work.
I agree with what you started our conversation about this book, though, is that where it fails is the art in the conclusion. The art throughout is just kind of middling, right? Mahmoud
It is.
Asrar does the alpha issue. It looks great.
Robert Gill does all of the Totally Awesome stuff, and I think in general Robert Gill is incredibly serviceable in this comic.
Sure.
I don't know if I've because we haven't talked about those stories on this show, but like, I thought Robert Gill suffered on Ben Percy's X-Men at the start, and I don't know how much of that was just timing and how much of that was the fact that we were going from Josh Cassara to that.
Right.
But I thought by the time he was finishing up his X-Force, he was a very solid artist, and I was not upset to see his work.
No. And we've got Mark Borstel on the Weapon X issues. So I agree.
And Abraham Robinson.
Oh, yes.
On the 6th issue, and then
But when this concludes, it really does need to like have the big splashy, here's the Wolverine and here's the big fight, and it doesn't do that. Like, the Wolverine is never full page, and immediately, instead of the big fight, he turns on his makers, which is a good twist, but again isn't given the like fireworks display that it really needs to have to sell the end of the story.
And I'm going to say something, and it annoyed me when it happened, because I didn't want it to be true either. But the actual Wolverine series that Pac follows up on this is pretty good. Like, Clay is an interesting character, but he isn't a character in this. He is a Hulk who's like, Though they very specifically go, yeah, he wasn't an indoctrinated racist at all.
No, he is one of the two experiments. So at the end, you have competing Hulkverines. One is the radicalized youth that Cho is trying to save. The other guy we don't know much about. You just kind of see him. But the difference is that Alba has let this guy kind of keep his brain, as opposed to just like turning him into a complete monster, and backfires, but that last bit where Alba is like so gleeful that the Wolverine is coming to kill her. Like, that's
good.
That works. That works for me.
That worked for me. It's like, I kind of want, and I don't know if maybe this was an editorial thing or maybe it was an art thing, but I kind of think Greg Pak wanted his X-Force to be sillier, or not his X-Force, I'm sorry, his Weapon X to be sillier than it really was allowed to be, and that Marvel wanted. And at a certain point, they were like, let's take the brakes off. And that's when they put David Nakayama covers on this book.
Right.
And they're like, oh, wait, no, okay, we're doing a different thing. Because the book does get, like, funnier after that.
Yeah, and you can tell the hints of it. There's a lot of like Sabretooth sight gags and, things with people getting, because the ongoing thing where he's trying to unlock Cho's Hulk is pretty funny, so. Because
Sabretooth is kind of like just a jerk in this.
Yeah.
But he's not evil.
Right.
And
it's fine. I think it's fun.
It works. It works in this. It's just that jokey team. Sabretooth is so many different characters. It's very hard to like think of his inverted version as Sabretooth. Like, it's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I got weird Sabretooth feelings.
I think
But,
that's
like,
totally fair.
I like this book, but the Hulk stuff really did. Like Hulk's moralizing and stuff. I see what they're doing with it. It just, I don't. At a certain point, I don't want to be like, yes, we should let all bad things happen to people because maybe people can change if we just use our words.
Right. And he's still clutching to that at the end, but it does make for an interesting story. I will say that.
It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I did enjoy it. Would you say this is better or worse than Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk at 47?
Well, hold on. I'm thinking. It is honestly, I was probably going to say worse. It's worse than that.
Okay.
What I was looking for,
Mm-hmm.
was what's at our 435, which is Sabretooth in charge from
that's
Weapon
better.
X.
Yeah, that's better.
That is better. But I thought we had the one where Azazel's in it, right? And then William Stryker's a demon worshiper.
Yeah, that's on here somewhere.
Is that better or worse than this?
That's probably worse. That one's no good.
Yeah, that's it. That is at 666 right now.
Oh, nice. Oh, I love that.
Look at that. What a twist.
Not for long.
Okay. No, not for long. It's going down. This is better than that. It's worse than Wolverine Hulk. It's worse than Wolverine Hulk. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah.
I think it's worse than Punisher War Journal 6 and 7.
Is it? Well, wait, where is that? That's
at 508.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than Dino Rachel at 600, though, I think.
It is better than Dino Rachel. It's not as good as that Runaways story from Runaways Volume 2.
Where is that on the list?
It's better than Mutant X, though. That's at 530 is Mutant X. I would put it, here's where I'm going to put it.
Yep.
Where I'm going to say we should put it. Above Excalibur Girls' School from Heck, but below Wolverine's Revenge, The Red Right Hand by Jason Aaron. And I think is that Ron Garney?
That sounds great. All right. So this is going to be our new 527.
New 527.
Of Mutant Destruction. And Zach, I think we smashed that episode.
I'm happy. We did a great job, guys.
Oh, wait. Hold on. I just have to note, there was a second Lost reference in the Weapons of Mutant Destruction. We had two Lost references this episode because there is a scene in Weapons of Mutant Destruction where polar bears do storm out of the jungle. I loved that. That made me laugh.
Hey, just because before we finish the show, I feel like we should continue our trend of Zach and Adam talk about TV shows.
Oh, here we go. Okay, go ahead.
Are you what's your feeling on Lost as a whole?
I love Lost, seasons 1 through 5. I have this like personal canon that Lost ends at the end of season 5 and that it creates a time loop and it just creates an infinite time loop that goes back to season 1. And that's just,
is that when Juliet?
Yeah. Juliet hits the bomb, right?
Jeez, the end of season 4 was really good, man.
Yeah. So once 5 is
thinking about it.
Once 5 is over, I'm kind of out. Like I watched 6. So, but I think I'm at the point, like I talk about this with our CXF colleague, Austin Gorton, quite a bit. Because he's also a huge Lost fanatic. Like I was obsessed with the show.
Right.
But I am getting to the point in my life where I do not want to revisit it again.
Me and my wife started revisiting it like 4 years ago, and she fell off and I couldn't watch it by myself, but like we were enjoying it the whole time. And I got the appeal of like, okay, I know what this is. I know why people are excited about it, but I never have rewatched it since it originally aired. When it originally aired, I thought season 6 wasn't as good as everything else, but in general, I was pretty happy with the end of Lost. Like
it was fine.
I've seen so many worse finales than the end of Lost.
And since then,
do you think it was annoying when they were like, "Oh, the numbers don't matter"? I'm like, "Come on, no, you can't be like these matter."
Well, they did matter. They did because they over-explained.
They were like, the numbers mean nothing. Yeah,
they were the numbers that symbolized the people that were drawn to the island. left, and that's what
Yes,
it
but
is.
then why
And
would that
was dumb.
magically appear everywhere in the world and in everyone's life?
Zach, it doesn't. The problem with the show is that they tried to over-explain things. They should never have tried to explain anything and gone Twin Peaks on it, and that would have been in for a much better show.
They should have not explained the Jacob and Esau stuff. Was it Esau?
What was the other guy?
Jacob and the other one.
The
better actor.
The Man in Black.
Yeah, him.
I don't remember.
Oh yeah, he just doesn't have a name.
Yeah, he's the Man in Black.
No, I think if you cut out that stuff, you've probably explained it to the point you need to.
I never understood that as a thing. And the reality is that I think Damon took a lot of the lessons that he took from some of the failures of Lost. And when he made The Leftovers, especially seasons 2 and 3, he made some of the most outstanding, perfect television I've ever seen in my life. And that made up for it. So
I was sitting there, I was like, yeah, man, I just want to talk about Lost a little bit. It's fine.
I know.
Well then, this has been Battle of the Atom. I'm Zach. Never try and find me. Adam, where can people find you online?
Folks can always find me at Adam Reck on Blue Sky and Instagram, Arthur Stacy on Twitter. And Zach, what are we doing next week?
We're doing a fill-in episode.
A fill-in episode?
A fill-in episode. I wonder what it could be.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
It's going to be a clip show of all of our best bits.
Is it like Community
That's a
where
joke.
like
No
is it clips that like we create? That would be a good bit.
Oh, that would be a good bit and a good fill-in episode.
That's not what we're doing, folks. We do not have that much time on our hands.
We are doing no one should listen to the 340 some episodes of this podcast. If you've already done it, that's fine, but don't go back. That's too many. Until then, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!